It's 11 a.m. What time is it with you?
You're so far ahead of us. It is 9 o'clock at night.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's not too bad then. Oh, so you don't know what's going to happen yet.
No. How is Monday so far? Pretty good.
It's going okay. It's going okay. It's a bit chilly here though. But
It's winter there, right?
Yeah, winter. Yes. So it gets down to a chilly 10 degrees.
Wait,
at night. Oh no, that's not Fahrenheit.
No, but what is that Fahrenheit 10 degrees?
Don't know. Does anyone know what that is in Fahrenheit? Yeah, probably tropical.
Do you have to wear a jacket?
60 or 70. Not really. In the middle of the day, it's still 20.
That's your winter?
Yeah, we're pretty lucky. I'm English, so I'm still getting used to it.
Wow, that's really
lovely. Nice. It is.
Oh,
all right. We better crack on. I've got lots of questions for you, and what we're going to do is I'm going to talk to Martha for about half an hour, and then if anyone has any questions that they want to ask, then we can do that at the end. And you've got little note paper and things for making notes. Okay, so Martha, could you start by just giving us a quick synopsis of the book and what drove you to pursue this story as it comes kind of chronologically before the other books that you've written?
Okay, great. Well, first of all, this is what it looks like here in the US. And it just came out a couple of months ago. It's so exciting. I first wrote Lilac Girls. I don't know if your guests there have read Lilac Girls, but that was my first book. And I discovered that by going to Caroline Faraday's home here in Connecticut and just discovered that true story by chance about the rabbits, the so-called rabbits of Ravensbrück concentration camp, and how Caroline Faraday, who was a socialite, and this was her summer home here, she died in the 90s. I discovered the story of how she brought those women to the United States back in the 50s, and that's what Lilac Girls is all about. But once that book was a hit, I went back to my publisher, and said, I'd like to do 2 more books, but go back in time and about Caroline's family. And the next one was about her mother and World War I, and how her mother did a similar thing with a group of women and helped them. And then this book goes even further back in time to the American Civil War. And it's about Caroline's great-grandmother, Jane Eliza. And Jane Eliza had 8 children. Sadly, she was widowed right before the 8th child was born. So she had 7 girls and then 1 boy, but he arrived after the father had passed away in a really sad, terrible accident at sea. So I've always thought, while I was researching Lilac Girls and Lost Roses, that I would love to write about this family, because I felt like Jane Eliza was so courageous, and that she brought, even as a single mother, she brought these children up to be such incredible kids, adults. And so I chose the middle daughter, Georgiana, to write about. And just because I loved her, I read all of their letters, which are down in the archives. And so I chose Georgiana, but they were very staunch abolitionists. They wanted to abolish slavery. And so I felt like I needed an enslaved character. And also I wanted to have the owner of a plantation, and that was Anne May. So those were my 3 characters.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it sounds like it's a real theme in this family, strong women and women helping women. So at the time, was this family quite unusual to have such staunch kind of abolitionist ideas and to be such good people? They almost seem too good to be true.
They were, and they were almost too good to be true. I agree with you. And while I was reading their letters, I thought, how can this be? They're so good. But I think at the time, while it was not unusual to help others if you were in a certain economic strata, they were pretty wealthy. Even after their father passed away, he was a wealthy merchant, and he left them a good sum of money to live on. But even still, among that rarefied group that did good works because they were expected to, they were really special. I mean, they spent all of their time during the war becoming nurses, serving as nurses, working in orphanages, they were really driven, and that's why I think they're really, really unusual. A lot of people went through the motions of doing that kind of a thing, but this family, they really believed in it, and they were very political. There's one quote in one of the books that says, when the Woolsleys gave up toys, they took up politics. And it really is true. They really believed in Lincoln and making sure that slavery, not only was slavery gone, but that the Union stayed together and the United States stayed united.
Yes. Oh no, it's yeah, very admirable. And obviously that comes down through the families in your other books as well. It's obviously a thread that runs through that family, which is fantastic. I'm just going to shift the scene slightly to talking about a lot of the book, which is set on southern plantations. And I was just wondering if you visited any of these plantations to really get a feel for setting the scene.
Absolutely. At the time, I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, which I don't know if you know American geography. I barely know it some days, but Atlanta is down by Florida. And my husband accepted a job at the Weather Channel. Do you have the Weather Channel in Australia?
We have that, yeah.
Oh, you do have the Weather Channel? Okay.
Well, for Australia.
Okay. He accepted a job down there. And so we moved down there, which was really great because after I finished Lost Roses and Lilac Girls, I moved on to this book and I could do my research down there because cotton was a huge crop for enslaved people. And that's where the cotton plantations were. And if you've seen Gone with the Wind, I mean, when I arrived there in Atlanta, I thought that's what I would find is a lot of kind of Terra type plantations with, you know, the live oaks and the, you know, the columns. But oftentimes what has survived is, and first of all, that was a fictitious place. It was a movie set. So
because that's in my head too. That's what I was thinking.
I thought I would find it, but no. And mostly a lot of these places were working farms that were just on a bigger scale. And so there are several actually, that have been preserved down there as museums. And on the weekends, I would just go there and kind of haunt these places. And it was really, really good research because when it came time to write it, I just had pages and pages of notes about the women mostly that lived there. Little things on the tours I would pick up, like at one plantation, they had panes of glass in the windows that were written on, inscribed with what almost looked like some sort of a tool. And the guide was saying that women, when they were given a diamond ring, they had no other way to test to see if it was a real diamond than to take the diamond off and write on glass with it and a paste diamond would not write, it wouldn't cut the glass. So I just loved that. And so all these women's names were inscribed in this window. And I just thought, oh, I'm going to use that. So it was super helpful.
That's great. That's a top tip for today.
You never know.
Oh, yes. A member of our audience said, did you use your diamond? Were you tempted to add your name with your diamond?
Did in my own house. That's a great question. Nobody asked me that. I did it in my own house, and it does cut.
Oh, wow.
Amazing. So I guess I got a real one.
Yes, it's good to know. And I just wanted to ask about one of your characters, Gemma, who's a young slave. And was it difficult giving a voice to her during a period when a lot of slaves had no voice?
It was, but I read a lot of things that were written in the period. And I realized that not every enslaved person, especially towards the end of the war, had kind of that slave patois. When when you read some of the older fiction about enslaved people, they sound very uneducated, but that really wasn't true. And white people had the same issue at the time too. They sounded, they didn't sound very educated. And some of them that lived on the plantations. So I just decided to make her an educated person because her Aunt Tandy Rose her original owner, Aunt Tandy Rose, taught her how to read and write for her own purposes, so that she could read Tandy Rose the Bible and make her grocery list. So I'm really glad I did that, because Anne May, on the other hand, the plantation owner, she doesn't know how to write. She can read, but she doesn't know how to write. So it does get Gemma into some trouble because, writing was against the law for slaves. And, I can't tell too much about the spoilers, but I like the fact that she is a little bit more educated and doesn't have that way of speaking like, massa, or, that kind of a thing. I made her have more agency. And I think that works. No one has said that it's weird, but I really like it.
No, I liked it. I liked that you shifted the power dynamics a little bit by doing that. And also that you did challenge the kind of stereotypical way that, this period was written about. So that was really, great to see. And yeah, on a similar note.
I did. Oh, you did that very succinctly. Perfect.
And talking about Anne May, she was, it would be tempting to just cast her as the villain of the piece, the slave owner, everything, but you didn't. You made her a really well-rounded character. Was that difficult?
Thank you. Some people, really don't like her, but I don't know. I think that she is well-rounded. I think she was a real person. She had a tough life. I mean, when you meet her mother in the book, you kind of go, oh, okay, I get it. That's why she's like that. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I just wanted to make her bad, but also have some redeeming qualities. She has a brother that she loves that, of course, goes off to war, and that's really hard. She's spoiled. She's a brat, but her father was murdered by rogue slaves down in Louisiana. So she's got a lot of baggage, but I feel like in the end, she comes around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's hard to hate her all the way through. So it's interesting that you mentioned about her brother going off to fight, and her husband fights on the other side. So was that common during the Civil War, that even within families there'd be people fighting each other on two different sides?
Absolutely. I mean, there were some famous examples of it, but I chose a battle where that really did happen. And so I don't know if you would say it was common, but it definitely happened quite a lot. And it was neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend, family members. Absolutely. Yeah, that was what was so hard about it. I feel like today we're still kind of going through that a little bit, where a lot of people talk about like politically, how they can't have a Thanksgiving dinner because in their family, some people are on the one, a Republican side and some are Democrat, and it's difficult. So I feel like we're kind of going through that again in this country.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting for us on the outside to kind of see in and see the dynamics and the politics play out there, that you're living through.
It was interesting researching it.
I'm sorry?
It was interesting researching the Civil War and drawing those comparisons to today.
Yes, gosh, I'd imagine so. And with all the Black Lives Matter and everything, it's a really topical book with everything that's happening.
Insurrection in the draft riots in the book. And while I was doing that, or after, when we had our insurrection here on January 6th, it was like the draft riots all over again. It feels like, history is repeating itself.
Yes. Could you talk about that a little bit? Because I'm a historian, but I didn't know about the draft riots. Would you be able to just explain to everyone what that was and what happened?
Sure. During the Civil War, it was possible, if you were wealthy, to pay, I think it was $300 to get someone else to take your place. And so that's what a lot of people did. I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of men, even the wealthy men, went off to fight. But there were a few that if they didn't want to, they could pay. And the Irish at the time in this country were, the lowest class. And they were upset because not only were did they not have the money to get out of going to war, and they were being killed in great numbers. The freed Black men were taking their jobs down at the docks, the longshoremen, and they felt like, these freed Black men were not citizens, so they weren't allowed to be drafted and go fight. So the Irish mob felt like they were the only people fighting, and it wasn't fair. And so they attacked New York City while everybody was off fighting for the Union Army. So there was no protection. They attacked the New York Times newspaper, and the New York Times turned a Gatling gun on them, which is a machine gun. So it was a really bad insurrection, and it turned into more of a race riot. And they killed 3 Black men. They lynched them, hung them from trees in New York City, and 1 child, a young boy. So it was a horrible, horrible time. And they also burned down the Colored Orphan Asylum. So that was a 3-day insurrection. It was the worst in our country's history, but it felt a little bit like the assault on the Capitol. The recent one was in the similar vein.
Yes. Oh goodness. Oh, it's interesting, but awful to see these things playing out again. And especially, I was just thinking all the freed slaves that had come to New York, thinking that they were finally free, that they had their better life lined up, and then for this to hit them again, it's awful.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's another excellent thing about this book, is that you don't shy away from the kind of nitty-gritty and the realities of war and slavery, and even the kind of field hospitals. You really talk about medical procedures at the time and things. How on earth did you research the medical stuff?
That was really fun. Actually, I think I have my book right here that I got a lot of it from. It's called Civil War Medicine. I have my shelves are full of. Ooh, here's a louse that someone put on. I know you can't make this stuff up, but yeah, this is just a super. It's got all the different, all the fun stuff, all of that. But that was fascinating. I also went to Gettysburg, which is a museum. Gettysburg was one of the big battles. It's the battle in the book. And it was really a turning point in the war. Up until then, I think the North was really thinking, oh no, I don't know if we're going to win this. They thought at the beginning it was going to be easy, but then it turned into a real slog. And Gettysburg was the turning point, and the North won that. And at Gettysburg now, it's a museum, and all of the surrounding land is hallowed ground, because there are still remains there and things. But they have museums there that have a lot of the medical stuff there. And also down in Atlanta, there's a wonderful museum there as well that, they take you around and they tell you how they did amputations and what the field hospitals were like, and the blood was coming through the floor. And, they give you all the gory stuff, my favorite stuff.
Oh, but wow. I don't think I'd do very well at that.
No, there's something wrong with me. I like all those details. So I guess that's good when you're writing about something like this.
Yes, no, absolutely. You painted a very vivid picture for me.
Oh,
but yeah, I was wondering, so you pointed out that book. So unfortunately, we can't travel to America at the moment to see these wonderful museums. So what books would you recommend that we could kind of read as companion pieces? Any non-fiction or fiction at the time that you would recommend, again, as an American who knows more about the Civil War and things?
Gosh, I have so many. It's so hard. I really, really love, I'm looking for it here, and I can't find it. This is a really good book. And I read all the letters, of course, that are down in the archives at Caroline's house here in Connecticut. There are almost 1,000. But this is a really good book. It's a good companion to Sunflower Sisters, and it's called My Heart Towards Home. And here are all the Woolseys here. And this is basically, I don't know if you can see, but it's their letters, just So these are I use some of the letters in the book, some like pieces of the actual letters, but this is a sampling of many of the actual letters. So you can go through and read their actual letters, which is really, really fun. I mean, I read all of them, but this I think is plenty. And it's a little hard because you don't know, there were 8 children and the mother. So there were 9 people sending letters back to each other. But it's really helpful because they have pictures in here of all of the different family members. So it makes it a lot easier. I had to keep referring back, like, who's JW? And it was Jane. But yeah, I think people will love that book.
Oh, good. And I noticed there's a useful family tree that you've put on your website.
Oh, oh, good. It does help.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
With all the characters. So yeah, we're just down to our last kind of 5 minutes or so. So I just wondered, I know we've got some writers in the room, if I could talk to you a bit about the writing process.
Oh, I love it.
Obviously you do a lot of research. So are you a planner? Do you plan everything out? Or are you what we call a pantser?
You want to see my outline?
Oh, yeah.
I think that will answer your question. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Exciting.
It's a bit smushed.
Oh, goodness. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
On and on and on and on.
Wow.
You can see, but it's 3 different, yeah, you probably can't see that well, but it's 3 different characters. They one along here, one along here, and one along here. So I feel like with historical fiction, you really have to plan it out, or at least I do, because with Lilac Girls, I just was a pantser kind of. I didn't know how to write a book, and it took me 10 years because I kept like writing something and throwing it away because it didn't fit into a timeline. But now I realize, if you've got the Civil War, for example, you really need to plan out which part of the war, because especially I always have 3 characters, so there's limited space for those characters. So I love doing it that way. And that way I can have a scene and I can write it and just kind of put it in its spot, if that makes any sense at all. It just feels like there's some method to the madness, because otherwise, especially when you're writing on a deadline, you have to kind of know if it's going to be done in a year or 2 years. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, I guess doing historical fiction, you've always got that framework to put your story in. You've got the histories there already, like you say with the Civil War. You know which battles are happening when, and you can use that to anchor it maybe. So.
Exactly. And that's really helpful, I think. And that's why writing something that's a true story is helpful, because you do have that kind of structure that you can hang things on. It's nice.
No, absolutely. And just about you, what do you like to read? Like, what makes a really good story for you? What keeps you turning the pages?
Wow, that's a great question. I like something that I can connect with immediately, that is really emotional. I really, if it's not kind of getting me here, I'm just not interested. So yeah, and I really like, my next book is, I don't know if you could call it a mystery. It's not a thriller, but kind of. It is still a historical novel that takes place in the 50s about 2 badass women that survive a concentration camp and go back and seek revenge on a doctor who did bad things to them. And they travel around the world. They're like Nazi hunters kind of, but so it's a lot of like intrigue. And so I've been, as a result, and then the book after that is a thriller, an actual thriller set in modern day, set in my house actually, which is scary. My husband says we need to move because I'm scaring myself too much writing about our house. But since I'm writing those books, I've been reading a lot of thrillery kinds of things. What have I got here? I love The Guest List. Do you have this, Australia? Lucy Foley?
Yes.
I've been enjoying that. And then Jocelyn Jackson's Never Have I Ever, just starting
Oh,
that
yeah.
one. So those are two that I really like, but yeah, that's my genre for now, because I'm trying to, you know, get the keys to the castle, so to speak. I'm trying to figure out how they're writing such great thrillers.
Yes. Oh gosh, very different. So it's safe to say then you're kind of putting the Faraday Woolseys to bed now. There's not going to be a fourth.
No, my agent said you need to do other things, because maybe you should do like the Revolutionary War. And my agent was just like, no, it's time to move on. And no more three characters. She put her foot down. So
Oh,
two characters in the next one.
so she's pushing you out of your comfort zone a bit. It sounds like it's doing well.
Which is a good thing, I think. Yeah, I'm really happy that she, easy for her to say, but I needed, after 3 books that have the same structure, I think it's like a palate cleanser to do something different.
Yes. Oh, well, sounds like they're going to be amazing. We look forward to them. Thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you for answering them so fully. That was really fantastic. So I'm going to open it up to anyone else who has any questions for Martha. Anyone, if you want to tell me and then I can let her know, or if you want to write them down and pass them to Danny.
Oh my goodness, I haven't read this new book. The Lilac Girls actually, no. That was while we were in lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
So I had an e-audio book.
Yes.
And I must say, the narrator added to the enjoyment.
Ah, was it Martha narrating? I had a question about e-audiobooks. Lady in our audience listened to Lilac Girls in lockdown, and she said how good the narrator was for the e-audiobook, and we wondered if it was you. Do you narrate your books?
Well, I just do the author's note at the end, but 3 different women did it, I think. Oh my God, now can you believe it? I can't remember. Oh yeah, it was 3 different women.
Oh gosh, I imagine you need some real acting skills to do those narrations as well.
They make it look easy, but just doing my author's note, which is only like 5 pages, it took me, it was embarrassing. I had to go back, and because you don't realize all the words that you may not know how to pronounce, or even just simple things. It was, yeah, embarrassing. I would never be a good voiceover person. And they have to do pages and pages of French and German words, and they're really, really good at it. But yeah, I'm so glad she enjoyed it. The woman who did Kasha, her name's Kathleen Gotti. She actually went on to do Lost Roses as well, the next book. She is on a soap opera here called General Hospital, and she's very famous, but she did a really good job with Kasha, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, excellent. And we have all of Martha's books available as ebooks and e-audiobooks as well, so you can download those from our website and from the library catalogue, because I know that we have so many holds on our physical books at the moment. So I'm sorry if you haven't been able to get your hands on a physical book just yet, but you can always order them at the desk here. So we do have lots more coming. But yeah, they're very, very more popular than we even imagined, which was fantastic. So we're getting more. We had to get more in.
That's so.
Any other questions? Oh, I had another one actually that just popped into my head. I may have forgotten to ask. In the book, the slaves used sunflowers as a way to kind of guard against dangerous situations. I didn't know, is that true? Did that really happen?
It is. The first books with Lilac Girls, I named it that, not because I wanted to, but originally it was called The Rabbits of Ravensbrook, which is a terrible name, but I was very attached to it. And I was sitting with my editor having lunch, and I was complaining, living down in Atlanta, which is warm, that I couldn't grow lilacs down there. And because they require a harsh winter in order to bloom. And she said, oh, that's just like the girls, they bloom after a harsh winter too, and we should call it Lilac Girls. And I was like, oh no, what have I done? But that turned out to be a really good title. So I wanted to have the same thing for my second book. So I thought for the Bolshevik Revolution, I should do a rose. That would be great. But then I was really stumped for what flower to use for the Civil War. And I was out on book tour for Lost Roses and asking people, and they were saying a daisy or a, black-eyed Susan, but nothing was kind of floating my boat. And then during research, I found that, in the Underground Railroad, the sunflower was a sign of danger, that they would tie one to a fence post or a tree. And that was a signal to the slaves that were trying to go north. Don't go here. It is dangerous. So that's when I was like, it has to be sunflowers.
Yeah, it fitted so perfectly. I thought, could that have been real? But oh my goodness, it's incredible. It's incredible to think.
Some of the things, the real things really resonate, I find. Like I couldn't have made that up, really. I mean, I could have, I guess, but it would have been hard to make that up. The real stuff, whenever I find something that is true, I really try and use it, because I feel like for the reader, they can tell.
Yeah. Oh no, that was very well done. Anyone else? Any questions about the writing process? Oh yeah.
What's the structure with diary?
Oh, okay. So one of our writers in the room just wondered how you kind of structure your days. Do you write every day? Do you have goals of a certain number of words or a certain number of hours, or to hit so many chapters? Or how do you kind of structure yourself?
That's a great question. I really try not to give myself a word count. I know a lot of writers do. They like to do 10,000 words a day or whatever. But I find that, I don't know, for me, that just kind of squishes my creativity. I just try and do as much as I can, or I want to, but I do try and work early. I feel like my best stuff comes before I brush my teeth. And sometimes that can be like for a few hours, actually, if I get into it. But yeah, I think the earlier the better for me. I know there are some writers that are better at night, but not me. And then by, I don't know, sometime after lunch, like 2 or 3, I start to kind of peter out. And that's when I do things like go on eBay and order things. Things that are research things. Like I found a wonderful, they have these tokens that they used during the Civil War. And here it is right here. It says, "Am I not a woman?" And I don't know if you can see it, but it's an enslaved woman on one knee, and she's holding her hands up like this. And she's got manacles on her wrists, and it says, "Am I not a woman?" So in other words, it's almost like Black Lives Matter a little bit, but abolitionists, white people, would carry these as a token of solidarity. So these are the kind of things that I go on eBay and get. Also in the book, I don't know if you remember, but there's a young lieutenant, I think it is, Roche, and he gives Mrs. Faraday the palmetto emblem off of his jacket and a button. And back in those days, that was your way of thanking someone. And she ended up she was so wonderful during, down in the hospitals. She ended up with pockets full of these, but I did find these on eBay, and I think they're amazing. It's a South Carolina button, like the one that Roche, that's a true story that he actually did that for her. And here is the palmetto, which is it's a tree, like a palm tree. So anyway, that's what I do. After 3 o'clock, I go on eBay or do other kind of research, because at that point, I'm kind of out of the fictive dream. I really try and stay in that world. And because I feel like my best stuff comes when I'm kind of in the zone in a way. But yeah, so that's, and then once I have, like for my 4th book, which is called The Golden Doves, the one about the 2 women, the badass ladies, it's kind of like Thelma and Louise meets the Da Vinci Code, if you know those books. But I feel like once I have the first draft, a pretty good first draft, then I feel like I can just kind of dip in. And on those days, maybe I write for 2 hours and then I move on to a different manuscript. That's the nice thing about writing two at one time, which I really like doing. You don't get bored.
I imagine that will be harder having to keep two thoughts in your head.
Oh, for me, it's like having two plates at dinner and you can kind of have a little here and a little there. It's really nice. I don't get bored that way.
Oh, there you go. That's how you just write two things at the same time.
What is he writing? Can you ask?
Yeah, some of our audience were saying it can be similar if you're reading two books at the same time. I've done that. I've read a non-fiction and a fiction book at the same time. And
Do you like doing that?
Yes, but you couldn't read two different books at the same time.
Oh no, I love doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you go, I'm a little bored with this, and then you can kind of switch
Yeah.
on.
Yes, no, we absolutely advocate for that. The library, more books. Any other questions? Ooh. Good question. So we were just wondering if you're in any sort of lockdown or any restrictions at the moment and how that's affected you with maybe promoting and touring and things. Are you doing more virtual things?
You all are so lucky over there. I know that you've really escaped a lot of it and you've handled it so well. We haven't as well, and we're such a big place. It's not easy, but I guess over a year ago in March, I guess it was 2020, I was out on book tour for Lost Roses. That was my second book, and the paperback. And I was out on the tarmac going from one place to another, flying. And my agent called and said, "You have to come home. I'm really sorry, but it's not safe." So I came home and that was it. All the bookstores closed, everything closed. Oh, it was just awful, especially because the most fun parts of my tour were coming up, Florida and all the, here in March, it's really cold. And so I was so excited to go to the warm places and they were like, "Sorry, you have to go back to New York City." I was like, eh. But anyway, since then, I mean, all that next year and into this year, it was bad. I mean, my husband would like get into a hazmat suit to go to the grocery store, that kind of a thing, vaccination. But then we all got vaccinated, I think it was in April, and it was life-changing. Suddenly, you could just do things that you couldn't do in so long. We're still just starting to kind of emerge from the chrysalis, it feels like. And it's wonderful. Now it's really great. I mean, unfortunately, there are a lot of people in this country that haven't been vaccinated because for a lot of different reasons. And that's tough. But when you're vaccinated, you feel pretty secure. So things are good here. And it's really helped the economy. There were a lot of small businesses that they couldn't do it and, in lockdown. So yeah, it's better now. But thank you for asking.
Oh, good. No worries. And you're going to be touring again around America or internationally?
When the paperback comes out right after Christmas here, yes, I will be, which will be so fun. That's the most fun part of this whole thing. That's kind of like the reward, is getting to go out and talk to people and having them say, "Oh, I like this one or that one." And, just to talk to people about it. But I'll be able to do that after Christmas. So that'll be fun.
Oh, good. Not long now.
No.
Oh, and do you read your own book reviews?
Wow, you guys ask such good questions. I used to. And when Lilac Girls came out, I was such a green bean to the whole publishing world. I used to read them, I mean, voraciously. It was bad. And I would take it so to heart, a really good one, I'd get so happy. And then a bad one, I'd just go, I like take to my bed. And so my husband just finally said, "You know what? Why don't I read them for you?" Because I think he was sick of me complaining to him about, "Oh, so-and-so said a bad thing." And he was just like, we have to like deal with this. So now I just don't read them, and he says he will, and he reports to me.
Okay, you can edit them as appropriate.
I wish, but he says, like for Sunflower Sisters, he was like, it's amazing. Everybody, you know, the reviews are really good. He said the few clunkers are usually Southern people that,
Interesting.
yeah.
Oh no, I thought you wrote them very fairly. But then yes, I mean, as an outsider looking in, I guess it's different if you're in it.
Right. In the South, there's still a kind of, as they would call it, say here, butthurt about.
Sorry, say that again.
Butthurt that they didn't win the war. So there's still some lasting.
Sorry, all the Australians in the room knew what you said, but I didn't know. I've never heard that before.
You know, they're still smarting from losing the war.
Okay.
They're still mad. They call it the War of Northern Aggression. It's like, really?
Wow.
You guys lost. Let's just call it.
Oh, goodness me. Yes, time to get over that one, I think.
So he says it's political, but I don't know. But the answer is no, not anymore. But it's just a mental health thing. You know, I have to write more books, so I just find that it protects me from getting too like crazy about it.
Yeah.
I used to not believe people when they said I don't read my reviews. I was like, oh, that's crazy. That's not true. And now I realize you kind of have to protect your brain.
Oh yes, gosh, yes, I can imagine. Okay, I think we're nearly at the end. Is any other last questions or ideas?
I don't know, why is she doing it?
What we were wondering, why you're setting your scary book in your own house? Is it just because that's what you know, or we're worried about you?
Could be. My husband is too. And yeah, well, it's too long of a story, but it came from the idea for it came from, I'll give you the short version because I know we're at the end, but I went to a book signing and the last person in line always has something like some agenda that they want to talk about. It's so funny. And so this time a woman asked me, can you come and talk to my book group? And I, you know, talk about creative writing. And I said, sure. And she said, but, and I said, who are the women? And she said, well, it's not women, it's men. And I said, oh, okay, where are the men? This was like up in Massachusetts. And she said, well, it's actually at a prison. And in Massachusetts, they go from 1 to 5, 5 being maximum security. And she said, it's a maximum security prison, but don't worry, you'll be wired in case of an assault. And I said, you know, I'm not sure I want to do that. And I was nice about it, but I was like, I'm kind of scared. And so I turned it down. I kind of wish I had done it, but, and my husband was like, you can't do that. That's terrible. And so I started thinking, what if I'd gone? And what if once one of the prisoners got out, like came to find me or something? And I started scaring the bejesus out of me. And I thought, well, maybe that would be a good book. So it's changed slightly, the story, but I just ended it out. I live on a hay farm and in a very kind of isolated place. And oh, I'm getting scared just talking about it.
Yeah, because it's nighttime with you, isn't it? It's getting late.
No, like you look out there. And so I just started thinking, what if it's this person that lived here on a big house on a, you know, not a hay farm, but in an isolated place. And all these things happen to them. So I just kind of set it in my house, but now I can't go in the basement. So my husband's like, really? Okay. It's a small price to pay.
Yeah.
In cold blood.
Oh, yeah, we said in, like in Cold Blood or Cape Fear.
Oh
Like
my
that.
God. Cold Blood, is that the scariest book ever? When I want to torture myself, I read that. It's so scary. It's real. That is really scary. I'm scared just thinking about it now. Thanks a lot.
Sweet dreams.
Thanks. But yeah, I hope it's scary for other people now that I'm saying how scary it is. But
I think we're unanimously agreed. It sounds scary.
okay, good. It's always the basement though, right?
Yes, we'll look forward to it. Absolutely. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much for giving all this time to us this evening, or for you this morning for us. And yeah, we really hope that once you're touring again, you come down to Australia, come and see us. It's warm, so if that entices you.
I want to see the Quirkers. Is that
Oh,
how you say it?
Quackers? Yes.
Those
Yes.
little animals. Yeah, that's on my bucket list. So I'll be there.
Excellent. All right, that's fantastic. All right, thank you. Can you hear everyone? I don't know if I can allow
Thank you.
everyone in there. Have a quick.
Hi guys, and
Hello
good
to
luck.
everyone.
Good luck with your writing.
Oh, well, thank